All right, everybody, I'd like to do just a quick little, I guess you can call this a tip, not really a tutorial, but I just want to show you some one-click wonders that I call them. And they're just little things that you can do in Photoshop that just speed things up. And you might see people do them. You might watch tutorials. You might see an instructor on stage, see something on a podcast or whatever. And they do these little things that you just kind of miss sometimes. And they're just these little one-click things. And sometimes the one click is maybe 2 clicks. Or it's a keyboard press or something like that, but one-click wonder sounds better. Okay, so let's start off with a little layers palette trick here. As you can see, I've got a multi-layered image here, and right now I've got my move tool selected. I'm moving the butterfly around. Let's say I want to switch layers, but I don't see my layers palette, or I don't know where the layer I want is. If you have your move tool selected, hold down the control key, that's Command on Mac, and just click on the object you want. Now this object happens to be in a group, but it highlighted that group for me. All right, and now I can move that object around. And if I click on it, you'll see that as I click on different things in here, I just changed the text. It just targeted that InDesign layer. We've got, what else? We've got this image right here. If I click on that again, it's going to highlight it in the group for me, so it's not there. But just for sake of demonstration, let's drag it out. So I will control click on the butterfly, and then control click on these guys here, and you can see it's a quick way to jump to those layers. Now if you're using Windows, a little trick for you here is just double click on that background and it opens up the open dialog. Now if you're on a Mac, chances are you probably don't have that background. You might just see straight through to your desktop, so that one might not work for you. A couple other things here, little one-click things. If you have a brush selected, let's go to the brush tool, and you want to see a context-sensitive menu of your brushes. You don't want to always go up here. Just right-click on the canvas. If you're a Mac user, you can control-click on the canvas, and that'll open up this little context-sensitive menu. One thing you'll notice is that works with all the other different tools here. So we have our Shape tool. I can click. I get blending options. Type tool. I click, check spelling, find and replace. So you've got a lot of different things. So you always want to try to right click on a PC or control click if you're on a Mac. Let's talk about some of the one press wonders, and that is a keyboard press. Let's say I change my foreground color to maybe red, change my background to, everybody loves purple, right? Yeah, how could you not like purple and red together? All right, so what I'll do is if I want to get to my default colors, think of the D in default as your reminder here, just press the letter D, and that resets to black and white. If I want to switch between black and white, just press X. Now that doesn't just work for black and white. If I had other colors here, pressing the X key just swaps your foreground and your background colors. Another one-click trick for you here is you're used to clicking on the opacity slider and then having to go in here and adjust the slider, move it around up and down either way. Works for all the other ones here as well. You could click and you could change all these different things, or just put your cursor over and you get those little scrubby sliders, and now you can do it again just with one click. You can change any of those settings. The way to tell is you'll see that little hand with the double arrow pop up. That means it's a scrubby slider, and that means you can change it using just clicking and dragging. Another one-click trick for you here is if you have Photoshop open, you see this little palette up here, that opens up the character palette. All right, so, and it also keeps the paragraph palette right with it, but it's one-click way to get to the character palette. You don't have to try to remember what the setting is. But take a look up here, see what happens. That's my character palette. Watch what happens when I change to the brush tool. Kind of moves, and if I click on it, now I get the brush palette. So again, just those little one-click ways to get to things that we might use all the time, and it tends to change depending on what tool that you're using here. And finally, let's take a look at one more here. Let's say I'm zoomed way in on the image, and I'm working on my image. I'm doing whatever I need to do to this very zoomed in image. You could always just double click on the magnify tool, and that'll take you out to 100%. So zoomed in, double click on magnify, takes you out to 100%. Double click on the hand tool, and it fits it right into your screen. So magnify takes you to 100%. The hand tool fits it into the window so you can see it on screen here. So there's just a couple of little one-click wonders, and hopefully you learned a little trick or two here or there just so you can kind of speed up your workflow here in Photoshop.